Hello and welcome to our Mousse live stream. So today we're going to look at some of the theory behind chocolate mousses, and we often get asked lots of questions about why is my chocolate mousse not working? Why have I lost my volume? Why have I got bits of chocolate in there? So we're going to have a look at the chocolate mousses. We're going to do a little bit of a theory behind the chocolate mousse, and then we're going to make some examples of it as well. So today we're just going to talk about the mousses, and then next week on the 4th of June, Mark is going to do a live stream on the glazing. So you'll see some of these mousses have been glazed, but Mark's going to look at all the different types of glazing then. So, you know, is it a ganache glaze, a pectin glaze, or a mirror glaze? Because again, the glazes are very popular and we get lots of questions about how to glaze a mousse. So that'll be Mark next week as well. So for the start of today, we're just going to go through some slides. And then I'm going to take you through how to make the ganache mousse and talk about the faults that can happen. And then we're going to look at a micryo mousse as well, because micryo is really good as a setting agent, especially if you don't want gelatine or anything like that. The cocoa butter in the micryo helps the mousse set. So we're going to do a fruit mousse, but we're going to set it with the micryo. And then Claire is going to do a very exciting one because we have a new chocolate coming out in the summer. So Claire's going to show you a mousse with that. So you're going to be the first people to see it. So it really is an exclusive. Okay, so here we go. So let's go through some of the theory first. Okay, so what is a chocolate mousse? So chocolate mousse is obviously, we've got the chocolate and then we add some kind of liquid. So we're going to add cream to it, but it could be whisked up egg whites, and you can have lots of different bases as well. So you could have an anglaise base, a creme pat base, and all different things, which we'll look at in a minute. So the chocolate is really good because we have the cocoa butter in there, and with the milk and the white chocolates and the golds and ruby, we have the milk fat in there as well. So all of these are helping us stabilize our mousse and also having effect on the liquid in the mousse. And the chocolate helps crystallize the mousse, so we don't really need to add in that many extra things like gelatine or agar or any other things. So chocolate is a great setting agent on its own. But when we make the mousse, there's some really important factors that we've got to think about. So one of them is the cream. So we use a 35% whipping cream. So with that, we don't have too much fat in our recipe. Because if you imagine your chocolate has already got cocoa butter in there, and then if you added in double cream, which is high fat again, you're going to end up with quite a dense, fatty mousse, which we don't want. So we're using whipping cream. Now, when we whip the cream, it's important to take it straight from the fridge, so 5 degrees, and then whip it on a medium speed. Because if we put it into the bowl and we whipped it at really high speed, we don't get that network of air bubbles that we want. So we'll get big air bubbles, and we don't want them because when we fold through the mousse, they break very easily. So you end up with quite a dense mousse. So we want it whipped medium speed, and then you'll get a nice network of air bubbles that will be brilliant when you fold it into your cream. Obviously, when you're whipping your cream, it can curdle. So if your cream is coming anywhere near the curdling bit, stop. You can save it if it hasn't gone too far. You could take some of your cream out and add a little bit of fresh cream back in, but always weigh it. So if you've got somebody that's looking like they're splitting the cream, take out, I don't know, 10% say, add in the liquid cream again and just give it a mix, and that will loosen your cream and you'll be able to whisk it again. If you have UHT cream, we're using the UHT cream. So that one, we always know that there's no bacteria in there when we open up that cream. So we use the Elvive cream, which is really nice for mousses. And again, make sure you use the whipping, not the double. So I did just talk about it a little bit. The stabling agent in a chocolate mousse is the chocolate and the cocoa butter in that chocolate. So we do have to look at how much cocoa butter is in the chocolates. And we always get questions about, well, how do I know how much chocolate I should have in my mousse? Well, a rough one is we need between 11 and 16% cocoa butter in the total of our chocolate mousse. And so if you're making up your own recipes, this is a good way to have a look at it. And obviously 11%, it will be lighter, and 16% it will be a bit more dense. So it just depends on the couverture you're using will really affect your mousse, your end mousse. So Claire's going on to the next one.
I'm going to have a look at this one.
Okay.
I'm going to be surprising Julie with.
Yeah, I don't know what's coming up next. So remember when I said there was lots of different bases you can use for your eggs, for your mousses. So you can have some that have got eggs in them. You can have some which have got cream in them, and you can have some which have got egg white in them. So here we have, I mean, who remembers the good old chocolate bavois? That's kind of gone out of fashion a little bit at the moment. But we've got the chocolate bavois, which is really a milk base. So we make a sauce anglaise, and then we add our chocolate into it. But we use gelatine to set this one as well. So when we set this one, it's quite thick and it's got quite a creme caramel texture to it. So it really does depend as well what you want on your end texture. And if you look at that list below, it will tell you what it's good for. So its functionality, is it a good color? Does it have a good texture? And how stable it is as well. So when you're thinking about what mousse am I going to make for what thing, this little chart is really good. And we will put a link on the YouTube page, because this is from a document that's on the Cocoberry website, and it's under the Taste Lab area. And in there, Ramon Morato did a really deep dive into mousses. And what you can see is, oh, there we go, Claire's put it up there for us. And you can download it and you'll get this brochure. And what he's looked at is the structure of the mousses. You know, what are they good for? What does it look like inside? How stable is it? So anything that you wanted to know about chocolate mousse, Ramon's done it. And there's two parts. So the first one is the science, and then the second one is the recipes. So they're really good to have a look at. So if we go back to the, yeah. So the second one there, which is one of my favorites, is the creme anglaise mousse. So this one is a really good all-round mousse. So you make your anglaise, and then we're just going to add in chocolate, and then we're going to fold through our cream. But if you were making an entremet, or if you're making mousses for desserts that are going to glaze, this mousse is really good for that. Because you can see there, it's quite tight air bubbles. And so you don't get lots of gaps that, you know, like the Chabouste is more airy. So therefore, when you glaze it, sometimes you get those air bubbles bursting and you don't get a perfect glaze. So for glazing, the ganache base and the creme anglaise base are the best ones for that. The next one is the pâté bombe. Now, a pâté bombe is where we do an egg yolks and a syrup, and we make like a sabayon out of that. And then we would fold through our cream. So this one has got more of an eggy taste to it. But again, some people like that. And it's got quite a nice light and airy texture, again, because of the sabayon that we're mixing it with. So that's a nice one. And then the ganache, again, it's one of our go-to mousses, because a ganache is very easy to make. So it's just your cream and your chocolate. And I'm going to show you in a minute, we add a bit of glucose. But that one is very simple. And again, really versatile. I can use it in entremets. I can use it in afternoon teas. I wouldn't necessarily put it into a glass because it does go a bit firmer. This one is quite a firm mousse. But again, a good all-rounder. And then we've got a Chabouste. Now, I haven't made a Chabouste in years. But again, this is just another recipe that you might see and you think, oh, why would I use that one? And again, the Chabouste has got a really nice, light, airy texture. So if you look at that picture, that one's got the most air bubbles in there. So that one's going to give you the lightest mouthfeel when you're eating it. And then the last one is the egg white base mousse. Now, again, I haven't made that for years. I'm not going to say how old I am, but when I first came into catering, egg white mousses were all the rage. So you're whipping up a meringue, basically, and then you're folding your chocolate through it, and there's no cream in there. So that one often used to go into glasses and things like that. But again, not many people make that anymore. But it is really interesting, isn't it? You know, you say to somebody, have you got a chocolate mousse recipe for me? And you're kind of like, yes, but what kind of mousse? What is it you're making? And that's why we ask you the different questions. So a good slide, that one. I like it.
Let's find another one.
Let's find another one, Claire. What have I got next?
Oh, here's a good one.
Oh, right. Another question. So if I want to change my chocolate, how do I do that? So if you have a recipe that says 50% chocolate, or if we have a recipe that's say 8-11, which is a 54% chocolate, and I want to change it to a 70%, how do I do that? Because if I just change the chocolate and I didn't think about the extra cocoa butter that was in my chocolate, then it's going to be a much firmer mousse compared to the 811 mousse. So what you would do here is it's a little equation, so it's a bit of maths for you. But so we want to find out the amount of chocolate that's in the recipe. So in our recipe, we had 750 grams of 811. And then you want to know what the cocoa butter is in that recipe. So in our 811 chocolate, our cocoa butter is 37%. And then we need to know what the cocoa butter is in the chocolate that we want to change it to. So the 70-30-38 has got 39% cocoa butter in it. So you see, it's only a 2% difference, but it does make a difference in the mousse. So then we do the maths. So we times 750 by 0.37, which was our original cocoa butter, and then divide it by 0.39. And so the new amount of chocolate that I will need is 712. So you can see, we know that that 70% has got more cocoa butter in it and it's a harder chocolate. So I'm going to use less of the 70% chocolate in the mousse to get exactly the same texture. So this equation thing works if you're doing it for milk, if you're doing it for white, but we've tried swapping. So we've tried doing it from a white chocolate to a dark chocolate, but it doesn't work. So it works in the when you're doing the same kind of chocolate. But I think that's really useful because, again, we all get recipes from all over the place, but we don't necessarily have the chocolate that they originally used in that recipe. So if you can find out the chocolate and you can find out what the percentage of cocoa butter is, you can then do this little equation, which is really good.
Final slide.
Final slide. So another really good tool on the Kakavari website is the pastry alphabet. So again, you can go into the lab area and you can download this. And there is a section on creams and mousses, and it's really good. So it goes through, again, the creme pat mousse, the ganache mousse, it goes through cremas, and it goes through whipped ganaches and all sorts of different things. But it also has in that booklet, they have everything you could think of. So there's pastry in there, there's cakes in there, there's ice cream in there, all sorts of different recipes that you would use for your patisserie. And so again, just go on there. It'll ask you to put in your email address and then it will send it to your email address. And again, a really good, useful tool to have. Okay, so I hope you found that useful. Lots of homework for you to do there, you see. So, but they are, like I say, there's lots and lots of resources on the Calabout website and the Kakavari website. So if you're wanting to make mousses, different kinds, there are recipes on there already. And of course, the recipes that we're going to make today, again, Natasha will send out when she does the thank you email. So the first one we're going to make is a ganache mousse. So what I've got in here, I've got my cream and I've got some glucose in there. Now, it could just be that you wanted to use cream and chocolate, but we find what happens then is it's all right if you use it straight away, but if you then leave it in the fridge for a while, so you left it till the next day, what happens is the cream gets absorbed into some of the cocoa solids and the chocolate mousse starts to go a bit drier and gets a bit of a grainy texture when you cut through it. So we've added glucose in there as well to give it a bit more flexibility, to make it a bit nicer. So I'm just going to put that onto the induction stove and bring it to the boil. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to pour it directly onto my chocolate calettes. I'm not going to warm them up because I want that cream to melt the chocolate, and then it will also take away some of the heat from the chocolate. Have we got any questions there, Claire?
No, everyone's just saying hello.
All right, good. Hello, everyone.
We're showing a bit of love for Ramon.
Yes, we all do love Ramon. No, he's an extremely clever man. And yeah, if you look at those downloads on the Kakavari website, there's so much information there that you can use, and lots of different interesting things like how to use honeys in chocolate, how to use soy sauce in chocolate, how to use wine with chocolate. There's all sorts of inspirational ideas. So that's it. My cream has come to the boil. I'm just going to give it a whisk.
Is this by magic? Julie, we've got a question. So, could honey replace the glucose in the ganache mousse? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. So, yeah, if you wanted to, just turn that off. If you wanted to, you could add honey. I have known people that have added glucose So what we've got honey, we've got glucose, could be a bit of invert sugar. Some people have even used golden syrup. I wouldn't recommend that one, but I have seen it done before. So I've just poured my cream on top of my chocolate, and I'm just giving it a mix. Now, when we make the mousse, what we've got to watch out for is temperature. It's really important. So we often make a mousse and you'll just then fold the cream in and not really think about it. But if we think about the cream, so we've got a cream that's got fat in it, and we've whipped that cream and we've used that fat to create that structure. So if I then get this ganache and I've melted my chocolate so it's hot and I poured my cream on so it's hot, that base could be 60, 70 degrees. It could be really hot. And then if I folded through my cream, what would happen is I would just burst all of those bubbles. So I would end up with just really a liquid cream in my chocolate, and I would end up with a very firm set mousse. If I did it the other way, if I let that base, because I've made my base and I've gone off and I've done a couple of jobs and I've come back to it and that base is really cold, and then I get my cream out of the fridge, which is 5 degrees, and I fold it into my base, that chocolate's already cold, that cream is really cold, and then what it does is it shocks the chocolate and it seizes it, so you end up with like a chocolate chip. Now, I'm sure we've all seen it before, and you're like, oh my God. Normally not when you're making it, it's when somebody else is making it. And the other one is, if we get the temperatures right, we get a lovely airy mousse that when we pipe it, we get a nice texture and it stays nice and light. So what we've got to think about is what is in there. So we've got the chocolate, we've got the cream, and then we've also got cocoa butter. So cocoa butter is the one, you imagine cocoa butter is a very hard fat. So if we cooled it down too quickly, that's the one that sets, and that's the one that gives us the problems. So I've got some great examples here. So this is I'm going to go top down, Claire. Let's see whether we can see it. This is my lovely mousse. You see I've got a great texture. Where am I going? Great texture on there. So that's what I want. That's what I'm looking for, something that's got a great body. Now, if it was too hot, can you see that's the same mousse piped into the glass? It's 100 grams in each glass. And so that's really, well, we don't want that, do we? You can just see it's really dense. And then the last one is this one, which is the cold one. So again, Claire will do front in a minute and you'll be able to see, but can you see that just looks really broken and there's like little chips of chocolate in there. And that was because my base was almost set. Can you see?
Yeah, I'll just go for this one.
Okay, if I move them.
On a little tilt. Oh, nice.
Yeah. So yeah, so you see, it's just not nice. It's just really thick and it's got chocolate chips going through it. And it's really difficult to rescue that one as well. You know, for that, I've got those solid bits of chocolate in there, so they're not going to disappear. My ganache one, well, it's a ganache. I could rescue it by folding through some more cream, but it wouldn't have the same setting texture. But you know, you could give it a go. So it is really important to think about the cream because, again, that has got so many different outcomes, and it's just to do with the temperature that you're folding through your chocolate at. So what is the temperature? So what we want is to think about that cocoa butter again. So that cocoa butter sets below 35. So when we fold through that cream, what we would like is our cocoa butter to be flexible still. So as we're folding that cream through, we're not shocking it and it's not seizing. So I'm just going to take the temperature of my base because I've been chatting so much.
So Julie, that ganache base there, if you cooled it, could you then whip it as a whipped ganache?
Yeah. So I'm on 33, which I know for this amount of mousse, I know it's going to be all right. And again, that's another important point because, again, I used to do big banquets. So if I was doing a banquet for like 600 or 800, you're making litres, you know, you're making 30 litres of chocolate mousse or something. So then you've got big bowls of your base and you've got a lot of cream. And when you pour that in, it's a big amount of cream going into your base. So then I would have my base at 40 or 45 as I was trying to fold it through. So again, it does depend on the size that you're doing. So I've got my whipped cream, which is here. And you can see it's nice and light. So we've whipped it, but it's not It's not gone to almost its final stuff. I've still got time and movement for when I put it through my chocolate mousse. But when we do it as well, I'm not going to add all that cream into here because I'm going to shock it again, aren't I? So I'm just going to add a third. And that's important as well. And what we're doing here is that cold cream, we're kind of tempering that ganache. So we're just going to give it a mix together. Okay, so you can see I've got a nice smooth ganache, and it's cooler now because I've added in that first lot of cream. So then I can go with the next. And also, some people say you're folding in with a whisk. We always fold in with whisks and not necessarily a spatula, especially at the beginning. I might use the Maurice later on. But I've got all those prongs there, haven't I? So every time I go once, it kind of goes 8 times rather than doing loads of stirring. So again, I'm not going to overwork the cream. So then I just want to keep mixing it. And you see already I'm getting a nice body in there, and that's because the temperatures are good. So I'll just stir the rest in. Make sure you go underneath because there's some chocolate underneath the bottom there. And then this, at this texture now, is great if I want to make an entremet and layer up, but it's also nice for piping, and it's going to go into my mousse mould. It's going to fall down into the mousse mould easily. So for the moulds, we're using some of these Demal black moulds, which are brilliant. So they freeze really well. So they go down to about -100 or something like that. But also you can bake in them. So, you know, if I wanted to make cakes the same shape and then do a mousse top, I could do that quite easily. We always pipe in, you know, like some people ladle in or spoon in, but that's really messy. So we're just going to pipe in our mousse. I'm just going to get some mousse in there. And then this mousse is nice, but it's nice also if we add something inside. So I always like a surprise inside. So we've got some frozen coulis. So I've got some raspberry coulis. Thank you. So it's just come out of the freezer. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pipe in my mousse. And then what you want to make sure of is when you add in the puree, it's got to sit in the middle, because if it was down at the bottom there, or if it's at any of the sides, it's going to leak out. So we want to make sure that when we place it in, it's really going to be in the middle of our mousse. And then I would scrape it off.
Where can people get the Demal mats, Julie?
So lots of the distributors sell them, or you can get them online as well. So I know Branson sell them, and there are Home Chocolate Factory, you know, people like that, they all sell these kind of silicone mats, but they're really good. So then I would just scrape off any excess and then freeze it. Now, again, if I wanted to, I could put this a layer of sponge on the base, but I'm not going to, because these ones are actually going to go on a sablé base. So again, just give it a little bit of shake, make sure it's down, and then that's going to go into the freezer. But that mousse, we can also, the ganache mousse, it's really good. I've just got a layered cake here. So it's really easy to layer up between sponges. So if you wanted to make a big slab for afternoon tea, or you wanted to make a really nice, luxurious birthday cake, you can do your chocolate sponge, and then you can layer up with the chocolate mousse as well, because it's really stable. And we can use it on top of ganaches, on top of brownies, all sorts of different things. So that mousse that I've just done there, we have actually got the recipe, and we've got the different amounts of chocolate that you would need if you wanted to change it into the gold chocolate, or the milk chocolate, or the white chocolate. So here you can see we've got the 5 colours of Calabout, so the 5 colours of the mousses, and they're on a little chocolate sablé base. But that looks really nice for a buffet or something like that, or a shop window. You know, you've got all the different choices that you can have for your mousses. And we've also decorated them with some blossoms. And then we've also got the brownie. And so the brownie, we've piped on the gold mousse. So again, that ganache mousse is really stable. So again, for your afternoon teas or for your takeaways, it's really nice to be able to pipe them on. And we've done the ruby mousse, and we've got the ruby crisp pearls on top of there. And then Mona Lisa have just brought out some really nice slim pencils. So that's what's on the top of those, they're really nice and delicate. So that's the ganache mousses. So I think it's look at the colour, Claire. It's beautiful.
Beautiful.
I'm not going the wrong way. Got to learn the right way, haven't I? There we go. So yeah, so the 5 colours. I mean, I love that one. You know, like the pink mousse on top there, the ruby mousse on top there, goes really well with the brownie. So the brownie's got the gold chocolate chips in there, and we've used the 811 chocolate. So, you know, it's got all those different flavours of chocolate in there, and it's really nice. And the caramel one's really indulgent as well. And we've also used some of the gold marzipan. So they're already coloured for you, which is really good as well. You don't get any dust anywhere when you're colouring your decorations. Okay, so any questions on the ganache one?
No.
Good. Well done. Right, okay, so I spoke about the my cryo. So we haven't got a box.
No, I've missed that prop out.
So we have my cryo, which is freeze-dried cocoa butter. And it's brilliant. So you can use it for cooking in the kitchen. You can use it for making mousses, which I'm just going to do. And I'm going to use my cryo as the setting agent. So again, it's really good for vegetarian or vegan cookery because it is just cocoa butter. And so often with vegan stuff, which Claire's going to do later, so I'm not going to talk too much about it, but you don't get the colour. But you can make this cryo mousse, you can make it vegan quite easily. I've got some egg yolks here, which I'm going to mix with my sugar and custard powder or corn flour, whichever one you like. So what we're going to do is make a kind of pastry cream. But these egg yolks in here, it's only a really small amount. So I could actually take that out if I wanted to make it vegan. This is the cryo. It's got a steak on the front, you see. That's why I said about the savoury food. But actually, it comes in a really thin powder form, and it's great. Yeah, so you just want to get rid of some of those lumps. But we can use it for tempering chocolate, we can use it for cooking, we can use it for mousses. Do you know what I mean? It's really useful. So that's a really good thing. So to make this mousse, what I'm going to do is I'm going to mix my egg yolk with my sugar and corn flour. And again, if I wanted to make it vegan, I leave out the egg yolk. Because you're going to see one later that I made, which is a mango and lime one, which is beautiful. And that's an insert, and that's made exactly the same method as we're doing now. So we're going to give these a mix, and I'm going to turn my raspberry puree on. And so with this one, it's a raspberry puree that I'm using now, but actually it could be any fruit purees. You know, it really goes well with mango, goes beautifully with apricot, because you're not adding in many flavors there. What you're getting is the real flavor of the fruit. The only one we found that we had trouble with when we were making this was coconut. And we think that is because coconut is quite a fatty thing anyway. And then we were trying to add in the cryo, more fat, and it just split. It wasn't very nice. So we don't like that one.
Question, Julie.
Yes.
So not necessarily for this specific cryo, but how would alcohol affect the different mousses? So if you wanted to add alcohol in, how would you do it?
So if I was adding alcohol in, it's the liquid, isn't it? It's liquid that I'm adding in. So I would take out a bit of the cream, and I would add in like rum or Baileys or, you know, whatever it was that I wanted to do it, and I would whip it with the cream. Or I could do it with the ganache. So, you know, when I'm making my ganache, I could take out some of that cream and I could add in alcohol. And I could easily make, you know, different flavoured mousses. Someone's going to have a good weekend.
And so if you were veganising the cryo, would you use extra cryo instead of the egg yolk? No. Just take out the egg yolks.
Yeah, so the corn flour that's in here is going to thicken our base for us. What the egg yolk is doing is it's giving us a more luxurious mouthfeel. But we've tried it and we found it without, and we don't really notice that much difference. So, you know, Claire and I look like playing with all the different vegan stuff. And sometimes there really isn't that much difference. And then we're saying, well, why is it in there? Do you know what I mean? It's in there because I'm making a pastry cream. You know, that is where this recipe originated from. It was a pastry cream that instead of using milk, we used the fruit puree. So therefore, we got this beautiful fruity mousse kind of thing. So I've mixed the two together. So I've got to put it back on and cook it out. Now, you have to be careful here. And because I'm on live telly, it will most probably burn. But the bottom of that pan can burn. So what you need to do is put it on a lower heat, and you need to cook it out until you see the bubbles like you do with the pastry cream, and then stop. So I'm going to turn it on. And you'll see it thicken, so you know that it's cooked out enough, and it goes nice and glossy. And then the same with this. So then I will have a really hot pastry cream. So what I need to do is stop the pastry cream, put it into a bowl, put cling film on top, and then leave it to cool down a bit. And again, when I fold through my cream, my base wants to be about 35 degrees because I've got the cocoa butter in there from my cryo. So I need to make sure that my cryo is still flexible because it's still cocoa butter. Another good thing about this mousse is I'm making the base now, and then I'm going to fold through the cream. So if you're in a kitchen and you've got to do lots of different types of mousses, I could make this base out of all the fruit purees I've got in the freezer. You know, I could make raspberry, mango, whatever, and then vac pack them. So I could vac pack them, freeze them, and then I can take them out when I want to make the raspberry mousse or the mango mousse, and just make sure I warm that base back up to 35 and then fold through my cream. So it's a really good one, you know, to have a bit of the base in the freezer, just to have to do a quick dessert or something like that. All right. I've got it on low, but I'm going to turn it up because I want it to go. I want it to cook quickly. So what you'll find is it does start to set on the base and the bubbles start, but you need to then carry on cooking because you need to cook out that corn flour. So you need to get rid of that taste. So you want to keep cooking it until it becomes nice and glossy, which it is doing now. Okay. So you can see I've got a nice, glossy, thick pastry cream there. I don't want to put it straight down because I'm going to use one of my other mats. I don't want to heat up the marble for Claire when she's coming next. So that's my pastry cream. Now I'm going to add in my cryo. So when I add it in, it looks like it's going wrong. So don't worry. Because as that fat melts, it goes really, you see, a bit like when you do choux paste and it all kind of breaks and it doesn't, you'd look at that and go, oh my God, it's gone wrong. But what you need to do, it's not splash everywhere, is just mix that in. And this little mat that I'm sitting on is really good if you want to do those little inserts like I just did earlier. So it's great for making middles for individual mousses. So there you go, you see I've got a nice, again, glossy pastry cream, but now I've got that fat in there as well. So I'm going to set that to one side to cool down because obviously it's boiling and we don't want that. And I'm going to do a blue Peter. And this is one I made earlier. So this one did come out of the freezer. We made the base up last week. And so what I've done is I've put it into the bowl and I've warmed it up a little bit in the microwave, but I'm just going to check the temperature again because I don't want it to be too cold. So I'm on 18 degrees. So I'm going to put it in the microwave.
What temperature are you looking for?
35. So remember, it's that cocoa butter in there. So I don't want it to be, if it was at 25 and then I add in this cream that was 5 degrees, you know, you're really shocking that down and it's going down to like 10 degrees, 8 degrees really quickly. And that's when that cocoa butter would set and you would end up with these greasy lumpy bits, which you don't want. So just going into the microwave. Just give it a couple of seconds in there. Obviously, I don't want to overheat it because otherwise I'm going to have to wait for it to cool down again.
So, Julie, this is a personal question.
Yes. Yes, Claire.
What's the best? What's the best temperature to serve your mousse at?
Okay, so again, it would depend on the kind of mousse, but room temperature should be good. Because again, when we eat that chocolate mousse, if it's come straight from the fridge, all of that cocoa butter and everything is quite hard, isn't it? And what we want is when we put it into our mouth, that we get that beautiful melting texture that you get from chocolate, and we all really like. Saying that, this my cryo mousse works really well coming from the fridge. So it's really nice for using for quenelling. So, you know, if you made a raspberry mousse and I wanted to quenelle on top of my brownie, this mousse is really good for that. It's really good for small entremets. It's good for inserts on bigger entremets, but it's not good for the outside one because it's quite light. So it's okay if you're using it in the middle, but I wouldn't do a whole big raspberry mousse made with my cryo and then put it out on a buffet. Because again, if the room gets really warm, it's only the my cryo in there that is setting it. And again, you know, we know it starts to soften the nearer it gets to 35. So again, I'm just going to add in a third of my cream.
Could you use normal sort of cocoa butter callets instead of the my cryo if you couldn't get my cryo?
Yeah. I haven't tried it, but I don't see why not. Yeah, but you see that colour, it's great, isn't it? You know, when you're wanting to add colour to your desserts and things. So it was a bit cold. Can you see it's a bit cold? It's setting a bit quick.
Because the camera's on.
So just add in the last bit.
It's normally really hot in here as well. Or no, normally really cold, but it's not that cold.
It isn't today, is it?
No.
Okay. So again, with this, you can see that I can pipe it almost straight away, which is really nice. Again, if we're wanting to pipe it into inserts or anything like that, you can see the air in there, can't you? It's a really airy, really lovely airy mousse because I haven't knocked the air out of that cream. So again, if I pipe that now into my mousses or into the, you know, like the individual trays, you get a great texture. And I mean, I can smell it. It smells so fruity, which is really nice. Good for summer. Now, again, for this, you know, you've got eclairs. That would be a really nice filling for eclairs. It'd be a really nice filling for a fruit tart. So if you put the, you know, that, I don't know, some raspberries or something in the base, and then that on top, and then put fruit on top of that, that'd be a gorgeous tart for restaurant service and that kind of thing. So it's really one of our favourites, isn't it, Claire?
It's beautiful. It's really clean. And because of the cocoa butter, it just melts in your mouth. You don't have to sort of chew it. It's just beautiful.
Now, I don't know if this is going to work, but this is a mousse that's got the raspberry in the centre. And then we've used the my cryo mousse inside and on top. Mark's going to do the pectin glaze next week with you because, again, that's a really lovely fruity glaze and gives a really great shine. You can see that, can't you? It's nice. And also, when it's pectin, it sets. And so if you're doing that on a counter or something like that and you need to move them around, it's a really good one because often if it's a ganache glaze or something like that, you touch it and you can see where you've touched it. But this one is not like that once it's set. So I'm going to cut it in half. I've got a sablé base on the bottom and you can see there, look, all that lovely centre oozing out. Beautiful, beautiful. So again, if you wanted to add, this one was raspberry coulis and some stock syrup, and then I set it, I froze it. You saw we put it into the centre. But if you wanted to add alcohol into this or something, because I could have added framboise in there or something like that, you have to think of two things. Too much alcohol means it won't set, it won't freeze. And if there's too much sugar, it won't freeze as well. So, I mean, you can do that by taste, but if something is really sweet, it's not going to freeze. And if something has got a lot of alcohol in there as well, it's not going to freeze. But we do Bailey centres and things like that all the time because they're lovely and creamy, and they freeze, and then you put them into the middle and cut them open, and they look really nice. But again, for a summer dessert, we could have had a totally different colour centre in there, and it just makes your desserts really interesting.
Question for you. So this micro mousse, could it be used on like a lemon tea cake base?
Yeah, that'd be really nice. Yeah. So what, to decorate the top of the lemon cheesecake, a bit like I've done with the brownies, that would be really nice. It's, again, we use it in gâteaux. So we would layer up a gâteau. So we do a really nice vegan one, which is a chocolate fudge. And then we do a layer of chocolate mousse and then a layer of the raspberry mousse and layer it up. And it's so delicious. It's really nice. And again, you could do that, with your birthday cakes and things. You could add a couple of layers of this in there. It's just got that lovely, creamy, moussey taste and texture, but really full of fruit. So it's nice. So I'm going to pass you over to Claire now, and she's going to tell you the exciting news.
Got some super, super exciting news. Unfortunately, I don't have a packet of anything to show you because
it's not out yet.
No, it's so brand new and it's so, we're very, very excited. So basically what's happening is we've spoken about it for quite a long time, but Callebaut are actually bringing out a brand new dairy-free and vegan milk chocolate and dark chocolate. Woo! So we're very excited. The biggest thing for me personally is the milk chocolate. So it's a dairy-free milk chocolate. And I've got some here. Now, I'll show you what it looks like at the moment because this is out of the test lab. So we're doing some experiments and things. So literally, I've just got little chunks. We haven't done a sort of factory production run yet. So it's still in the early stages. Personally, I've done quite a lot of taste tests just to really get to grips with what it tastes like. But yeah, we're really excited. Now, the plan is that this will be available for you sort of September time, late summer maybe, but hopefully we're aiming for September. So we're going to have the milk chocolate and it's not going to be dairy milk. So what we're using instead of the dairy is a product called Schufa. And it gives this really nice creaminess to it, but it's completely plant-based. It's actually from a legume or sort of bean type plant. So it gives us a real nice creamy mouthfeel, but it's completely plant-based and allergy-free as well. It's going to be made in a factory completely segregated. So we're going to be able to call it dairy-free. And then it's going to have a friend, because everybody needs friends, and it's going to have a dark chocolate friend to begin with, which is going to be a 55% dark chocolate, again, completely dairy-free, made in a segregated environment. So a really workable, really reliable, all-around performing dark chocolate. So Julie and I are super excited about this coming onto the market and being available. So I wanted to show you how versatile it is and use it in a milk chocolate mousse. So we've done a few experiments with mousses and we've showed you some recipes before. So what we've got is our vegan creme pat mousse. So it's a really easy to make. I used to be terrified of making mousses. So once upon a time, Julie and I went to do a big function and she left me in charge of a great big pot of mousse. So I was whipping up the cream and then she left me and I was terrified, but I achieved. And I think she must have been watching secretly somewhere because
it was your baptism of fire, wasn't it?
Whoops. Yeah, because it's scary when you've got such a lot of ingredients. You don't want to ruin them. You don't want to waste anything. So you want to make sure you get it right. And so I've always been a little bit scared, but then I've realized I don't need to be too scared. It's all right. I know what I'm doing now, just about. So what I've got here is I'm going to make a creme pat. So I've got oat milk and then I've got some custard powder. So the Bird's custard powder is vegan, but you can use corn flour instead if you want to. You just need to make sure the corn flour sometimes takes a little bit longer to cook out than the custard powder. And you get a more vanilla-y, sweeter taste with the custard powder. So it's whatever you fancy. And then I've got a bit of sugar. So the sugar just helps to make sure the custard powder gets dissolved. So I'm going to put that in, and then we're going to cook it up so that we get a nice, relatively thick pastry cream. Now, it's not as thick as a normal pastry cream because we've experimented with it. So we've done it whereby we sort of do a traditional pastry cream recipe with the oat milk. But what we found is then when we put it onto the chocolate, it would split. It's something within the sort of dynamics wasn't very happy. So we've adapted and changed like every good chef does. And so now we've added more milk in the beginning because that's what it needed at the end. When we put it over the chocolate, we found that it needed that extra liquid. So we put the extra liquid in at the beginning. So it's quite a lot. It seems like quite a lot. It's like 280 grams of milk. You've got your 18 grams of custard powder. So it's you're quite heavy on the milk, but there's a good reason for it. It makes it all come together at the end. Now, also, good tip for you, because this is quite chunky chocolate, because it's not the callets that we're used to. It's not the nice standard Callebaut callets. I'm going to need to sort of rest this pastry cream on top of the chocolate for a little bit longer to make sure it really melts in. Right, so this is coming to the boil, nice and fast, which is good.
So with this chocolate, you can just treat it the same as normal chocolate, can't you?
Yes, yeah. So you can use it exactly the same as you would any other chocolate. Like it's that versatile and that workable. But we're still doing tests. So the main people that are doing all the testing and stuff is our Callebaut. What's Davide's official title, Julie?
Lead chef?
Lead chef, yes. So our Callebaut lead chef is Davide Kamaski, who's based in Belgium. We've given him a new job title. So he's been doing loads of the development work along with a really lovely lady called Marika van Beurden. And she's sort of a vegan and dairy-free expert based all around Europe, sort of. She's Dutch, but she's in Belgium, the Netherlands.
She lives in Barcelona.
Lives in Barcelona, yeah. Has her own sort of school and bits and pieces. But extremely knowledgeable about ingredients and vegan pastry. So the two of them have been doing loads of tests, and there's loads of stuff online about all their experiments. So literally on some mornings they'll come in and they'll be tasting sort of 50 different recipes that they've made. So I just need to give that a little stir. So I've got a really nice thick pastry cream, but I really need the pastry cream to do the work for me and melt that chocolate. Okay, that looks quite gross at the moment, but don't worry, it's going to look good.
We believe you.
Okay, so we're just gonna let him chill out for a second.
So again, it's the same rules on temperature here, isn't it?
Yeah. So like Julie said, it's all about getting the base right, because if we've done a lot of work already to get a nice creme pat, make a nice ganache. If we ruin it by adding the cream in too fast or not quick enough, then we've kind of destroyed a lot of things, and we don't want to do that. We don't want to be wasteful, do we? So it's nice and hot. I'm gonna brave it.
That's right, you're only live.
Okay, so that's going to come together quite nicely.
So when they've been doing it, Marika and Davide, they've been checking all different applications, haven't they? So how to make a really nice vegan crème and mousses and all those different things. And they've done like 50 different tests to get the best textures and stuff. So we can't wait for the recipes to come out for all of that, which they will do when they launch the chocolate.
And that's the great thing. It's going to be such a fantastic resource. So not only are you getting a new chocolate, but you're going to get almost like a vegan dairy-free resource book with it as well. So just with all the recipes that they've done, it's going to be super, super exciting. Right, Julie, I'm prepared to show that to you. All right, I shall now cut. I think it's okay. See, it's lovely and glossy. That's okay. I've done all right there. Okay, so that's our base. Now I do need to let that cool. That is quite hot. So I've got my cream already whipped up. Now, Julie and I are big fans of the Elmley cream. So it whips up really nicely. And you can use it just as a straight swap for your normal whipping cream. There's others on the market. So there's a new one that we haven't really done much experimentation with, the Flora Professional, which again, we're told that it whips up really nicely. And again, you can use it as a straight swap. Haven't used it very much, but very willing to try it and go along with the idea that you can just do straight swaps. There's other things with regards to vegan mousses especially. There's lots of concepts around the idea of, so we're doing the sort of cream-based one, but you can do a meringue-based one. So you can make quite a few different vegan meringues with things like potato protein and then all the other protein isolates. So you can use pea protein, all sorts of all the vegetable proteins. You can now get isolates of them. So like if you're into your sort of bodybuilding and all the health food stores, they've normally got some of the sort of isolated protein powders, which you can actually use, but they need stabilizing. And so then you're getting into the territory of using gums and things like that. So there's some good recipes out there and they're coming. The thing is they're not quite as stable and as versatile as this kind of thing. So to use in a kitchen and to be really easy to use without having to get lots of different ingredients, this is fantastic because it's just a creme pat mousse and you've just changed your cream, basically.
We like it easy, Claire, don't we?
We do. We like easy, definitely. And so then it makes things less complicated and it makes it much easier to swap things out. So there's definitely nothing wrong with trying the other ones. And I tried a new one at the weekend because I needed a break from my brain. So I tried it with some pea protein and some guar gum, and it made this sort of real jellified blob. And then a few hours later, it actually turned into a chocolate mousse, and it tasted all right if you can get over the taste of the pea protein.
Yeah.
Julie's tolerance of weird flavours is not as high as mine. I
want it to taste like a chocolate mousse.
Yes.
Not like a pea.
So this is much more luxurious and there's no peas have been harmed in the process. Okay, so this is, I'll show you this. This is the whipped up Elmley cream. So you can see it's whipping up just the same as the normal cream, holds its shape. And yes, it's vegan. You can see all my little...
Yeah, because you can't tell necessarily.
No, you can see all my little stickers. And this is exactly the same. So this does actually whip up a little bit quicker than our standard UHT whipping cream, which is great. So you're saving a little bit of time. But just like Julie, if I don't whip it enough, I'm not going to get enough air in. But if I whip it too much, then it can go too far. And I can't then get it into my mousse.
Helen's got a question for you here.
Oh, go on it.
Oh, it's a hard one.
Uh-oh.
So, if she wanted to make a chocolate bar,
yep.
And could you use that eggless mousse as a filling?
I mean, technically,
not really.
Yeah, I would say technically yes, but I never would. Because
the shelf life on it would be
the shelf life, and it's very fluid. So then, I mean, water and chocolate are their sort of enemies, and it's better to keep them apart if you can. Obviously, they can come together and get along, but it's
so we've used them in like domes, chocolate cups. We do some lovely chocolate cups and domes, and that's quite nice. And you could put the mousse in there. With some crunch or some other bits, and then actually do a base. So you ended up with like like one of those marshmallow kind of desserts.
Yeah.
But in a bar, it's quite airy, and by the time you piped it in and then tried to back it, it wouldn't have much texture.
Yeah, I'd kind of keep your mousse away from your confectionery, really. Yeah. Right, that's at 40 degrees, so I'm not going to put my cream through yet.
You're going to show us the dessert.
Yeah, what I'm going to do is here's one I made earlier. Well, me and the team. So this is a sneak preview of something that Mark's going to do next week. So Mark's going to do all the glazing. He's going to teach you everything there is to know about glazing. Aren't you, Mark? So what we've got here is a vegan glaze. Okay, and then inside I've got my vegan mousse, and then inside that we've got a mango and lime my cryo insert.
So again, for vegan, a lot of the times before we hadn't got colour, had we?
No.
So all of a sudden we've got now whites, yellows, browns. So it looks really nice together. What angle would you like to do?
Oh, let's go for number 2. Yeah. Okay. I'm going to cut through, and then I'm going to try and go through the base. Oh, go on. Sorry, he's in there.
It's nice and soft, isn't it?
It's really soft. It's beautiful. Ah, right. It's the sablé that's causing.
I'm sorry, Claire.
It's all right. Okay, so it kind of looks like an egg.
It does actually, doesn't it?
So
Yeah.
I've messed it up a little bit, but you can see inside we've got the beautiful mango and lime insert, and then the really nice vegan milk chocolate, and then our pectin glaze.
And you can see that'd be really lovely to eat, nice and creamy.
Yeah, that's going to be my lunch in a minute.
Is it?
Yeah.
I'll fight for it.
But no, I mean, it's super exciting, isn't it, to have a vegan milk chocolate. And then we've got other things here that we've taught you. So you can veganize the micro. Mark's going to teach you how to do this glaze. So all of a sudden, you've completely elevated your vegan offering. But not only that, we've got the very simple to do ganache mousse. And you can do it in all 5 colors of Callebaut. So it's a fantastic thing to be able to achieve. Really what you
I was looking for the dates of the other live streams.
Yes, because we've got quite a few coming up. We're back on track with our live streams. So Mark is next week, I think, on the Friday, and then after that we've got a home baking.
Yeah. So
we've got the sort of the 811 823W2 available in 400 gram bags for home bakers. So tell your friends. Anyone that uses chocolate in a small way, you're able to get hold of small bags of Callebaut, and we're going to just go through standard stuff that you can make at home.
And then we have Ruby.
Yeah, we've got a complete live stream all about Ruby. Everything you ever wanted to know about Ruby, and all sorts of fun things to make with it. So hopefully lots to keep you interested. And I hope you've enjoyed today. If you've got any questions, just shout. We love the little community of you that are on our YouTube channel. It's always great to get lots of questions from you and to see you there. So it's lovely to see you. And yeah, thank you ever so much.
Yeah, thank you for joining. We'll see you next time.
See you soon.